my vision of what should be in the new HBO Harry Potter series.
What?
You heard.
Just before we get into the episode, a couple of big updates I want to cover with you.
Waste of bloody time if you ask me.
So the filming has officially begun in July 2025 at the Leavesden Studios, which is in the UK.
Ain't no one gonna get past Fluffy.
The original home of the Wizarding World. The series is set to premiere in 2027. We do know that the first season is going to have 8 episodes. How will the first Harry Potter book fit into 8 episodes? It's going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting. I want you to join me on this journey. So do share your ideas and theories that you think I should include. I will be doing a theory breakdown video for each episode of the new HBO Harry Potter series. What should be included? What can be included? What theories did they completely miss out of the film? What was in the book that I think should be included? Today's theory comes straight from the restricted section. And trust me, they didn't want you finding out about this one. In the book, The Boy Who Lived starts not with Harry, but with Vernon Dursley, where Dursley notices odd people in cloaks and flying owls by day. It's eerie, even for a kid's book. The film, however, skips all of that. We see Dumbledore kind of turn up at number 4. We see McGonagall as the cat, and that brings us a nice start to the show. It always starts with the home element, which is nice. For example, the UK being the main backdrop for the filming. Having a house, a typical home, draws a lot on people's general lives. When you see it start in that way, the street lights, turning the lights off, it's almost like you could see yourself being in that environment. It's a longer way from magic, but I feel like we could have a whole new section there. What about if we saw the fall of Voldemort and Lily's sacrifice? Maybe that flashback that we have later on in episodes should be at the starting. Should we see that whole section? What happens before Harry is delivered to number 4 Privet Drive? I think it should be. Now that we've got a little bit more time. Have we though? HBO's announced it's 8 episodes, so we're looking at 45 minutes per episode. We could probably double what is in the film. But looking back at some of the videos and some of the conversations, I feel like there's a lot of footage that they took out of the movie to cut it down. I feel like they could easily go for longer. It could be quadruple the length of what it is at the moment. What could season 1 expand on? So here's my theory. I think in episode 1, we shouldn't start with the classic. I don't want to mess up the classic Harry Potter starting. It's got its own unique feel to it, and it makes you warm to the fact that this is real. Having a magical series of episodes starting in a UK environment, a house where baby Harry Potter is being delivered to number 4 Privet Drive. It almost brings it to life as if it's a real scenario. Obviously later on there's a lot of magical elements to it, but I feel like maybe the season should start with the war, the Wizarding War, which brings down Voldemort. Imagine episode 1 starting with the actual attack on Godric's Hollow, not just a flash of green light, but a full scene. We could finally see James protecting Harry, Lily's sacrifice, Voldemort's entrance, maybe even a moment of fear or hesitation on his part. Let's have a little theory. What would that scene look like? So if HBO might do things differently, a flashback structure, the kind of flashback we get later on where Lily sacrifices herself to save Harry, maybe that's something to start with. What do you think? I feel like there could even be a little bit push on Voldemort's defeat, the Ministry in like chaos, Daily Prophet headlines, a little bit of a push to say Voldemort's gone. What happened? A little bit more in the moment. That would be a nice start to setting up episode 1. The tone of this episode is going to be quite critical. I feel like the book was whimsical but also deeply sad in bits. I feel like we've got a chance here where we can show a little bit more about Harry's dark side. Even though he's a child, the Dursleys were afraid of him. In the movie, it's more a little bit comedical, the way he's kind of bullied. It's not shown to the extent that he does get bullied. I feel like the cruelty that's there can be a little bit built upon. Already seeing scenes coming out, I feel like they're filming the zoo episode and there's ice creams involved. There's a little bit more being filmed. We never know what bits of the filming will make it to the final cut. Like in the original Harry Potter, that a lot of scenes they cut away. So you may be seeing things in the news and headlines about certain aspects being filmed. Let's just hope most of them make them into the final episode. I think in episode 1 must have scenes. This is something I feel like needs to be there. I think Vernon's strange day at work, cloaked people hugging him, whispering about the Potters. I think there was a little bit of a touch in the films about McGonagall's worry of having Harry raised with muggles. There's a slight touch to that, but I feel like there needs to be a little bit more of a conversation which we can see happening around that, which will bring that into a nice turn, as McGonagall's like a motherly figure to Harry in a way. And I also feel like Hagrid's an important part of Harry's life, and in the early seasons we see him dropping Harry off, being very sad and emotional, and we can play a little bit on that to maybe have a little bit more scenes involving how he's sad and he's discussing that. It was done well in the movies. I liked the slight touch on that. You could tell that Hagrid's a big gentle giant. I feel like in the movie the scar is shown, but it's not really mentioned. I feel like there can be a little bit more about, if we include the scene I talked about where we see the fall of Voldemort and Lily and James. Maybe that draws on the fact that how the scar was made, and a little bit touched just to draw attention to that early on. Most of the people watching will already know the background, but it's nice to elaborate and have some more background on that. There's some amazing quotes that could be included. He'll be famous, a legend. I wouldn't be surprised if today was known as Harry Potter Day in the future. There's something there, I think, that can be included. That's a nice quote I liked. Here's what I'll be watching for. In summary, episode 1, there are some elements I definitely want to see, and I feel like Vernon's point of view of how the Wizarding World communicates Voldemort's passing and James and Lily and Harry Potter's little fiasco. Will we see the first Wizarding War at all? That'll be a nice important one. Will Dumbledore's decision to leave Harry at Privet Drive feel more calculated, more mysterious? Because I feel like we should get insight into Dumbledore's forethinking, because he knows how important Harry is and what the end goal is. So I feel like there's more there we could play on. The books did a good job. The movie didn't include everything that was in the books. I feel like there's elements we can draw on. Let me know in the comments, what would you like to include in episode 1? What could we do without? And what is the Wizarding World gonna be like once the new HBO series does come out? What if episode 2 finally shows us the full scope of Harry's miserable life with the Dursleys? There's a theory swirling through the Wizarding World. HBO Harry Potter episode 2 season 1, The Vanishing Glass and Letters. Today we're breaking down how the new series could bring missing book moments to life, and why Mrs. Fig's mysterious role might be bigger than you think. What did really well with the original Harry Potter was having it start in a normal world, which then took us to a magical world, and there's 2 separate zones that you can enter into, as if it's a realistic changeover that you can walk through a wall and get to another place. I'm still really in 2 minds if episode 2 should still be at the Dursleys' house, because I feel like there's still key elements that we could build upon that will build on the fact of the normal world before the magical stuff starts kicking off. Because I feel like there is a bit of a rush to get the exciting stuff happening, and maybe this episode 2 of the HBO new Harry Potter series, this is where we know things are not normal. Harry's special, and the foresight, especially if you had the episode 1 Wizarding War, that could nicely play on the magical start. We had the episode 1 where we talked about Harry, how he gets delivered to the house, Privet Drive, and now in episode 2 we're thinking about the daily life, how bad it was for him, the protection he got. And also I feel like episode 2 could end with Hagrid. At the zoo, Harry unknowingly makes the glass vanish, bringing the snake and Dursley into close contact. The film includes the glass vanishing, but doesn't include the cruelty that Dursley shows early on. So I think the show could expand on a couple of key elements. Maybe Mrs. Fig's house, Petunia and Vernon, how they're trying to keep Harry away from the magical world. Maybe a build on the fact that the letters start arriving and more in a chaotic way, because they start in the books, there's a referral to like they're coming through the cracks, they're coming through the fireplace, turning up in eggs. All of that's kind of not really included as much as it could be. And also the building of tension where Vernon and Petunia are saying like, wait a minute, the magic's still coming to him even though we've tried to shield him from it. Breaking through Muggle walls. I would build on the fact of how is Harry in the current environment he's in. He's grown up a little bit. What are the Dursleys doing? How are they treating him? Mrs. Fig plays an important part. Later episodes she's shown, but while Harry's in the Muggle world, she's keeping a close eye on him and like a bit of a protector for Harry. It's hard to pace films. You want the nice magical element to the film and magical atmosphere, but at the same time, I think what did really well with the original Harry Potter was having it start in a normal world, which then took us to a magical world, and there's 2 separate zones that you can enter into, as if it's a realistic changeover that you can walk through a wall and get to another place. And then, just when all hope seems lost, the door blasts open. A giant man steps in, hair like a lion, beetle black eyes, an umbrella. That's not just for rain. This is where everything changes for Harry. It's the moment he's rescued, not just from the storm, but from a lifetime of lies. I feel there's more here when Harry is rescued by Hagrid, because Hagrid says Dumbledore sent me. So that's already setting up the Dumbledore and Harry bond, which is going to be quite prevalent throughout the episodes. I think it's not just a rescue. It's the first time anyone tells Harry the truth. So he's actually the main focus for the moment there. And the Dursleys tried to erase his identity. But here comes this tall man. It's amazing how Hagrid makes Harry feel like he's wanted. So he's actually mentioning to Harry he's a wizard. He's got that whole break where he's actually the person who dropped him off, and Harry doesn't really know that. So now it's another tie to that moment. And obviously in later episodes, there's a lot of Hagrid moments with Harry. So it's nice to see. I feel like there's a moment here which could have a little bit more dialogue about how Hagrid can mention 11 years ago bringing baby Harry, and a little bit of foresight to give Harry that extra assurance that actually this man's a trustworthy person. Because in the movie, it's kind of like he comes in and Harry's kind of almost happy that anybody turned up to rescue him and take him away. But there could be a little bit more play on there just to reassure Harry that I dropped you off as a young baby here. I wanted you to be taken care of in a normal environment, but now it's time for you to get your magic. There could even be some flashbacks to Godric's Hollow, just in the book, possibly showing baby Harry being rescued from the rubble. This scene where Harry is meeting Hagrid is one of the most iconic moments, and I feel like this would be a nice one to end episode 2 on. So it's a bit of a high for the next episode. It's emotional, it's funny, it's heartwarming, it's like a gentle giant. And if HBO gets this right with the full dialogue, especially with the change of cast for Nick Frost for Hagrid, I feel like Nick Frost could do a great job playing Hagrid based on all of the movies he's done and how he will get into the role. Already some of the early photos showing him seem like he's playing the part. There'll obviously be some other stuff involved to make him look bigger. So I feel like episode 2 could be a nice cliffhanger where Hagrid comes to rescue the boy wizard. And that moment there could be a nice ending towards episode 2, and that could build to the magical next episode. I feel like Diagon Alley should have its own dedicated episode. This is something that is difficult to get right. So that's my breakdown of episode 2, the possibilities of what the series could bring to life from the books. Next time we're journeying to Diagon Alley. The next episode is where the real magic begins. So we're going to have Harry entering Diagon Alley. What's your favorite missing scene from early chapters? Let me know in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll be joining each other again in the next episode where we're going to be tapping some bricks to get through to Diagon Alley. Harry enters a world he never knew existed. Goblins, vaults full of gold, wand cores made from phoenix feathers. But what if the HBO series takes? We made it to episode 3 of the new HBO Harry Potter series, and my vision for what we should include in these episodes. It's very interesting reading your comments, so thank you very much, and it also gives me that extra push to make the next episode, so keep those coming. We're going to be entering Diagon Alley, and we're going to be talking about all the shops that they've missed. I feel like there's so much we can do with this episode. I am dragging the episodes out a bit because I want them to last longer. There's only 8 episodes in total, and right now we're on episode 3, entering Diagon Alley. I haven't got my timing right, have I? But hopefully it gives us more time together and lets us, because we've got a long time before the release. 2027 is when the Harry Potter is going to be released, and now it's 2025. So we've got 2 years worth of wait. Hopefully we can fill that time with our theories in the meantime. Quick update on what's going on so far. A number of cast has been announced. We know who's playing Hagrid, we know who a couple of the key characters are, we know who the famous 3 are. So if you've missed all of that, I'll put up a little update on my screen now. You can see some of there's quite a lot, so I don't want to bring too much of that into this episode because we have got a lot to get through. Let's get on to my thoughts for what I think should be in episode 3, my vision for Harry Potter new HBO series, the Diagon Alley entrance. The journey to Diagon Alley. Harry enters a world he never knew existed. Goblins, vaults full of gold, wand cores made from phoenix feathers. But what if the HBO series takes this even further? Today I break down everything episode 3 should include. So we left off on episode 2 with Hagrid rescuing Harry. I feel like the hut, Hagrid rescuing him, then them having the train journey. The movie jumps almost immediately to Diagon Alley, skipping a lot of emotional development between Hagrid and Harry. They sail back to mainland, they stop for food. There's some key elements there which could build on that relationship a little bit. It'd be nice to see Hagrid buy Harry some food. I think it's the calf, the sausages, and it tells him more about Hogwarts, like setting the expectation and the excitement in Harry's face about going to a school. It's a small scene addition maybe, but I think it'll build a nice world opening for Harry. And I think there's also a little bit elements there where they missed out some scenes in the leaky cauldron where everybody knew who Harry was. And it's a huge contrast to how the Dursleys treated him. So people coming up, shaking his hand and conversations with him. That would be a nice addition. I think also moving along throughout Diagon Alley, it'd be nice to see some of more of the shops, a bit more of the environment, how things are going about. We kind of jump to Gringotts and there's goblins. The film shows us a glimpse of Diagon Alley, but the book paints a richer picture for us. So there's more detail in the book. The shops selling cursed telescopes, owls screeching in cages stacked to the ceiling, wizards arguing about cauldron thickness regulations. It's not like it's fantasy, it's not like it's a magical world, it's actually a living, breathing place with normal activity that you would see in like a market. So it's really exciting to get a little bit more of an insight in that. I think they should include that. There's a number of stores which are included in the book which we don't get to see in the movies. Will the HBO series help us out here? The Gringotts Visiting Bank. Yep, it's a bank for the Wizarding World. Gringotts, said Hagrid. the safest place in the world for anything you want to keep safe, except maybe Hogwarts. So goblins are known for their distrust of wizards. It's like a bit of a feel there, and their fierce protection of treasure. So that's a little bit about the people that look after the bank. Gringotts has hidden vaults deep underground, accessible only by high-speed cart. Hopefully in the new HBO series we see a lot more of that entry point and how those tunnels look. It was amazing to see that. Harry has a vault in Gringotts where his money's stored from, like his parents. That was number 687. Fact check me on that, I'm sure it's 687. The high security vault is for Harry's belongings, but then Hagrid visits that day. The vault is 713, which housed the Philosopher's Stone. So it's nice to see that they're in quite close proximity. Like the stone was only, that was interesting, that the Philosopher's Stone is quite close to that. I like that. I wonder if the show will show more about the Gringotts politics, like the Sword of Gryffindor, and touching on that fact of the Goblins' rebellions. The storyline there is quite good, that could be built upon. I think that's like a bit of foreshadowing and a long game move for later episodes. I think HBO really has a chance to bring this whole place to life. It's a full magical society. Ollivander's wand shop, where Harry gets his wand. So there's a quote from Ollivander's shop there, Mr. Ollivander. I remember every wand I've ever sold, Mr. Potter. Let me know if I did a good job of that. So Harry's wand is 11 inches. Holly Phoenix Feather shares a core with Voldemort's wand. So I like what they did there. That's like a nice connection in the writing in the movie. Like the fact that they mentioned that was very good, because now we know that if there's ever a duel between the two, it's going to be difficult to see who's going to be the winner. And maybe they can use each other's, possibly. Garrick Ollivander is considered the best wand maker in Britain. Interesting, that's a fact, trivia. The shop's slogan on Ollivander's is "Makers of Fine Wands since 382 BC." There's a Madame Mulkin's robes for all occasions. If you're down Diagon Alley, make sure you check that one out. There's a shop for wizarding robes and Hogwarts uniforms. There's a quote from there. That will be Madame Mulkin's robe shop. You'll get uniforms there, Hagrid. Harry meets Draco Malfoy here for the first time. Will we see that in the HBO series? I don't know, it'd be nice to see that first meet. The shop also makes dress robes and formal wear used in the Yale Ball. So the Goblet of Fire yet to come. Seems like miles away, but once we get into these, and if you binge these episodes, it's going to be like, what? We're already at the ball? Robes are enchanted to adjust size as needed. So it's almost like, you know, when there's the jacket in Back to the Future, and you push the one in, the arms. I'm thinking about that. But obviously this is more magical than that. Flourish and Blots is a good shop, which we saw a bit about in the Chamber of Secrets. So that's the main bookshop for scroll books and magical texts. Quote, and here we have Flourish and Blots, where you'll get your books, Hagrid. Gilderoy Lockhart holds a book signing here in Chamber of Secrets. A bit of trivia there for you. They sell rare books like the Invisible Book of Invisibility, which is impossible to restock because it's invisible. Some books are cursed or dangerous and are chained to the shelves, almost like when they go to the restricted section and it opens a book, and that moment, that's quite a magical moment. Aesop's Owl Emporium. So this shop specializing in owls sells food and cages too. So obviously you need to have a pet when you go into Hogwarts, so that's one. They brought Harry an owl, a beautiful snowy owl, as white as the snow. So Hagrid gets his birthday gift to Harry, which is Hedwig, and it's a snowy owl. He buys it from Aesop's Owl Emporium. Am I saying that right? Aesop's. Cottage's Cauldron shop. So this is where they sell the cauldrons and various size differences and metals. So you'll need a cauldron too. Pewter standard 2, said Hagrid. Did you know a little trivia fact you can get from the cauldron shop? Offers collapsible cauldrons, self-stirring cauldrons, and those made of silver, brass and pewter. So when you're doing some magical stuff, if your cauldron is not thick enough, it could explode, and that's why the Ministry of Magic sets specifications for thickness of cauldron bottoms. Fun trivia. Cauldrons are essential for potion making at Hogwarts. Slug and Jigger's Apothecary. So sells potion ingredients and supplies. So it's like an essential place if you're doing magic. There's a quote from that. They passed a shop with barrels of slimy stuff outside. Slug and Jigger's Apothecary. They stock in this store. They stock dried nettles, dragon liver, horn of bicorn, and powdered root of asphodel. You know what that is? The old Snape special. The smells in the shop include rotten eggs and bad cabbage. So what can you expect to smell when you get into that store? You'll smell rotten eggs and dried cabbage. Some of the ingredients are highly regulated by the ministry that are stocked in Slug and Jigger's Apothecary. We've got Wiseacre's Wizarding Equipment. So they sell magical instruments like telescope and scales. Next, they visited Wiseacre's Wizarding Equipment to buy a telescope and a set of brass scales. Also sells hourglasses, compasses, magnifying glass, and enchanted measuring devices. You can whip out a tape measure and it'll automatically tell you it. Wait, is that similar to the one he uses to measure the... Okay, remind me of that moment. Who was it? Let me know in the comments. I'm sure someone takes out a tape measure and it comes down and it goes back up again. It was the lady in pink, which I don't like very much. And she measured the short professor that does the name is on the tip of my tongue. Dolores Uxbridge. Yes, that's her. And the professor, the short one that she measured up to see if she's doing that. Yeah, you know what I mean. Sometimes I have these mind blanks, so you have to fill in the blanks for me there. Okay, so Wiseacre's, these instruments are used in astronomy and potions classes that they sell in the visiting equipment shop. The shop reappears in the video games and Visiting World theme parks. Quality Quidditch Supplies is a store that functions as a Quidditch gear and broomstick store. Is that the one he gets the Nimbus 2000? He stared through the window at broomstick. It was a Nimbus 2000. So the Nimbus 2000 was the fastest broom on the market in 1991. So if the HBO series follows this, will we have the same? I'm sure we will, because looking at the pictures, they're kind of setting it in that era. Later stocked the firebolt which Harry gets in Prisoner of Azkaban. And Ron Weasley dreams of owning a broom from here in the Chamber of Secrets. Those were some of the stores in Diagon Alley mentioned in the book. How many of these will make it into the HBO series? I'm hoping for at least half. Just to get a little bit of a feel about Diagon Alley. It's magical to see some of these shops and these memories that they stir up. Like Wiseacre's shop, and you're getting measuring tools, and then, you know, all this is amazing. From time to time I do glance at my screen here. I've got my laptop and I've got the book as well, so I normally like to refer through the book just to see what's mentioned in the book. Madame Malkin's is a key element that was kind of missed out in the movies. It was in the book, so that's where the Draco first kind of meetup happens. So one key difference between the book and the film, Harry meets Draco in the robe shop, not on the train. So is that a good place? Is that where they should meet? What do you think? I feel like episode 3, bringing that to a bit of a close. Best place would be the last few the one picking Ollivanders, the one chooses the wizard, Harry. Slow pan of Ollivander's shop showing the layout. That scene was very good in the film. I liked it. So I think, will Ollivander's one speech be larger? Will they stick to the same? It'll be interesting to see what they could do there. I think by the time I get to episode 8, I might be crushing everything into one episode. I just want everything to be a little bit longer, a little bit timed out. The book goes through the details very nicely. It's just, can we keep that speed? We'll have to find out. I might have to put some bonus episodes in the end of this, which HBO probably are not going to do. That's my breakdown of episode 3. So we kind of get to a point where he's got his wand. Next time we're heading over to board the Hogwarts Express, We're going to meet the famous trio and the sorting hat ceremony. I think that's what should be in the next episode. If you haven't already done so, let me know in the comments what would you like to include. I've glossed over some of the scenes that already have been included, but I want you to let me know what you think should be there. Platform 9 3/4. Pumpkin. Pastries? A talking hat that reads your soul? Episode 4. Thank you for joining me. HBO series of Harry Potter. Let's have a little dive into this. The journey begins. I think this is a key moment as well as Harry enters the Hogwarts Express on platform 9 3/4. This is kind of where he meets his true found family.
Platform 9 3/4 this way.
The magic before the magic. The moment Harry gets to platform 9 3/4 is one of quiet transformation. This is where Harry enters the magic world. Also the chaotic moment he meets the Weasleys, because remember,
Alright, Percy, you first.
in the book, the Weasleys and meeting Harry is a chaotic moment, like loads of shouting, owls hooting, banging of like trunks. A glimpse of the real wizarding family. How does he feel? The movie trims this down, but HBO could show quite a lot. They could show Molly helping her children one by one through the barrier.
Red, you.
Harry watching, confused, then finally asking for help, which he kind of does in the movie. I think Percy acting important, Ginny begging to go, Fred and George teasing Ron. There's like elements there that can be extra elaborated on. The train ride is quite good. Getting onto the train, the friendship, the foreshadowing, the amount of people that meet Harry in the train, like in the movie is not as many as it could be. More of the interior of the train, maybe compartments, and showing more of that Hogwarts Express, because it's like a whole fan base around the trains as well, so they love how that works, the steam locomotives. This is kind of where he meets his true found family, like the trio, the best bit of it. So Ron and Harry's bonding over food, the trolley coming in, is that, I think that element was nice, where they're enjoying the candy and like kind of the frog leaping out, the corned beef sandwiches. Like there's elements there that can be elaborated on. Ron deserves a little bit more screen time to kind of deep dive into some of that, the relationship there. Hermione's first impressions, very bossy, like brilliant and already kind of better at spells than most people. And Neville's lost toad might seem silly, but actually Bill's his character, because later he can be the chocolate frog card gives Harry his first mention of Nicholas Flamel, a setup for Philosopher's stone plot, so that's quite an important bit there. The train journey, there can be elements, I think that's a key element that the friends meet, so maybe a little bit more scenes there showing the kind of just between them, how they're talking to each other, how it builds. It could be elaborated on. It's very nice because that moment gives you that. The scene must be magical. The movie gives us a glimpse, but the book describes a glowing castle, and I think there needs to be a little bit of a transition showing the clear step between the train and the boats and how those lead up to the iconic skyline of Hogwarts. I think that element was nice, because looking back on some of like the behind the scenes, they had a big pond or lake, they're like a collapsible thing they put water into and had the boats coming through, and the kids kind of filmed that scene. The moment gives a glimpse of like the book describing a glowing castle reflected in the still black lake, boats gliding silently, the torches, all of that was done very nicely. So I think Hagrid leads them, and the fog, and there's loads of elements there. The perfect tone for a new beginning. It's a nice setup that I like the original scene, but they could do something magical with it. Should they change it though? I don't think they should. I think the original was nice. The sorting hat, so as they go up into the castle, more about the walking of the castle, the nice stairs that they come up to, and McGonagall standing at the top getting them ready. There's like some scenes there we could elaborate on. The floating candles as they go inside. Close-ups of Ron during the hat's decision ceremony. Hermione, Draco, Neville, more detail there. The Hogwarts song, I don't think they should include it. I didn't like it. I'll be honest. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about that? We see more internal debate. The Hat's seriously considering putting Harry in Slytherin. So I think there needs to be elaboration on like the little decisiveness between should he be in Slytherin, Gryffindor. Something that only makes sense if given real time and attention. So I'd like to see that Hermione's sorted before Harry and how that plays. The fact that his friend's been sorted out, and will he be in this? His friend's been sorted out, so will he be in the same class? And how Draco's instantly just gone into Slytherin. That was like Slytherin before the hat hits his head. Slytherin. Harry's internal plea. I think Harry's internal plea, not Slytherin. Like, that was an interesting moment. I liked how they did it in the movie. Here's where the show can go deeper. Because we're missing out the song, maybe something to say the houses, a little bit more about like the Slytherin, the values, and Ravenclaw, and how they could do that to make it a little bit more meaningful. A nice introduction to the Great Hall and the house, because obviously the food appears and it's magical, and that moment was very good in the films where you see the big long shot of the whole table being full of food. That would be a nice moment in there. After the sorting's done, the feast begins, and with it the introduction to Hogwarts traditions. So maybe I think that was enough, but maybe a little bit more. We've got more important scenes already on episode 4, so I'm trying to have to cut this down a little bit. I think I just want everything to be longer and more detailed. I think Dumbledore having his odd speech kind of gives like an ancient institution feel to it, so that might be still good to have in there. The show could expand on a few elements, so the core sorting hat ceremony could be more deeper, more psychological. Ron and Harry's friendship developing in quiet, real ways, like just as it portrays it happening. The ghosts, we can increase those. Dumbledore's full speech plus his personality, which was gentler and weirder in the books. I'm mainly covering the things I'd like to see in the episodes, and I'm conscious that there's already great elements in the movies, also in the books, that I'm not really touching on. It depends what you think, what your theory is, because from my point of view, the movie did a good job. It's just generally we'd like to see more of everything. That would be the main thing. If they had given us the full version of the movie without the cutscenes, it would have been as good. There were some key elements which would have spoiled the mood of the film, but that's down to how they perceive it and set it up. So overall, there's a lot of scenes here that I've kind of jumped over and missed. Let me know in the comments which ones you think are definitely important to have in here and which ones could be played upon. I'm conscious I'm halfway through, and we're episode 4 now, and based on my theories, I'm just about getting to Hogwarts and getting sorted. So now we've got 4 episodes left where we need to get the actual magic going, and there's a lot more there. The Mirror of Erised, we've got the Fluffy guarding the door, we've got loads of stuff, so stay tuned because we will deep dive into more of that. So that wraps up my breakdown of episode 4 and what it could look like in the new HBO Harry Potter series. Next time we explore Harry's first magical class, potions, defense against the dark arts, and the first hints of danger at Hogwarts. What moment do you want to see brought to life in the series? Let me know in the comments. I will be on X, formerly Twitter, where you can follow me more for updates and news about the series and episodes. That's at Wondatell. You can follow me there and I'll give you like more updates. Classes begin and Harry's magical journey gets serious and a little dangerous. But what if HBO explores the deeper tension between Snape and Harry? Episode 5, Lessons in Magic and Rivalry. Let's break down episode 5. The secret behind Professor Quirrell, a proper look at Hogwarts magical classes. This is the first real look at what Hogwarts students go through on a daily basis. In the movie, we get just a quick montage, but the book gives us a lot. Transfiguration with McGonagall, Charms with Professor Fitzwick, Herbology with Professor Sprout, Defense Against the Dark Arts with Professor Quirrell, full of garlic and stuttering. The HBO should and could give each of these lessons room to breathe, and then that will let the audience kind of feel like we're really in school with Harry. So I think it's time we talk about the elephant in the room, in the classroom, Severus Snape. We need to see more about him circling Harry and like kind of how he's almost a snake, kind of like looking around to see, The movie gives us a cold, sarcastic lecture, but the book version is much richer. Snape ignores Hermione's raised hand and he kind of targets Harry right away. What would I get? I can't do what I get if I added powdered root of asphodel. He does like a bit of a, what would I get if I added powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood? I don't know what that was, but that's my... Many fans believe this line is secretly like referencing Lily Potter, but HBO could expand on this. Maybe even Snape watching Harry from the shadows, tortured by his memories, like little flashbacks while he's in the back corner, like kind of one of those that it'd be interesting. Just play on that fact that his parents are bullying Snape. Also in the class, it's kind of where we get that sense of where we think Quirrell might not be what he seems, like with the turban being on or off and all of that kind of scenario. I think in the classroom, it's a nice scene. I enjoyed how they laid it out. There could be a little bit more tension around Snape and Harry because they're like a bit of rivalry that turns out to be friendship or like helping and all sorts of foreshadowing going on. I should say spoilers before that, shouldn't I? But yeah, that was an interesting class. But also I think the flying lesson is a nice one as well. The broomsticks lifting off. Hopefully we get a lot more in the first one you can tell where they use, like in the movies, it looks like a cartoon basically, and is laid between real life acting and cartoons. Maybe now we've got the technology where we can make it a little bit better, but that first flight is very good, showing Harry and how good he can fly. The little tension between Neville and the Remember-All and the ball, and then chasing around, and McGonagall kind of finding out who did that, and all that scene is got a bit of tension, like the first mistake of school kind of idea. The best part is McGonagall seeing it and doesn't punish him and kind of finds him and takes him, and then we get a little bit of a flying... Everyone's told to keep their brooms on the ground, but obviously Harry's got a bit of a rebellious streak where he goes after Draco, and then there's like that whole pursuit. And McGonagall seeing him but then not punishing him. I liked all of that setup, it's nice. I think also when McGonagall takes him away and the whole class thing, oh, he's in big trouble, but she's actually taking him to Oliver, and then mentioning about you were looking for a seeker and the Quidditch. And I don't know how I feel about Quidditch. I'm not too into the sports side of it, but do we expand on Quidditch? Let me know in the comments. Would you want like a full-blown like a football, almost theatrical Quidditch game with loads of like angles and stuff? I'm not really into it, but it might be something you really liked about the movies. In the book, McGonagall pulls Harry out of class and introduces him to Oliver, the Gryffindor Quidditch captain. I found you a seeker. The moment sets Harry apart, so he's like kind of being lifted out, but in the movies he's kind of like more taken there after McGonagall's seen him riding the broom quite well. So I think maybe there's something we can do, build a bit of anticipation about Quidditch and the match to come. What do you think? You have to let me know. The ghosts of Hogwarts lore. Nearly headless Nick floating through the wall. The bloody Baron gliding silently behind him. Should the ghosts have more screen time? To be honest, so I'm not too much of a fan of giving the ghosts too much time. I feel like there's loads of other key scenes that we could spend time elaborating on. So maybe the ghosts get there like got screen time, but I don't know if they need to have such a deep story. It could build on the fact that there's a lot of history in Hogwarts and things, but I don't know. It's like a tricky one. Sometimes I feel like, oh yeah, I'd like to hear more about that. Sometimes I'm like, you know what, there's other stories that they missed out which would be more interesting. So what would that be? So the book explains how each house has a ghost. Okay, I'm in with that. So like, for example, Nearly Headless Nick for Gryffindor, the Bloody Baron for Slytherin, the Fat Friar for Hufflepuff, the Grey Lady for Ravenclaw. So these are quite good because later on we may need some of these for help and advice from like history. But the spirits give insights into each house's history and the tragedies tied to Hogwarts. So I think it's important we get some screen time and more elaboration. So yes, we need to know about them a little bit more than what the film did, but they don't need full blown out like scene. They need scenes, but they don't need full blown out storylines. Maybe they could come in and out maybe in certain spots. So overall, I like this element of it, and I feel like Snape's potion speech could be more elaborated on, like subtle references to Lily. That was interesting. And maybe more reactions about like the classes, the student reactions to like seeing magic and the awe and the confusion. That would be more interesting to pull us in and show that magic is like different, is more intense than what Harry used to live. Dursley's Privet Drive is a big transition to that. I also think now that he's at school, we could see more expanded flashbacks, like the Marauders map. There's loads of magical stuff, like also Quirrell and Voldemort meeting flashbacks would be nice. Day-to-day life in the school and how lessons are done, like going to and from classes, more about the food and like the dormitories and the paintings and all of this. There's more that could be elaborated on. If we've got enough episodes, we should be able to expand on that. I think it's very important, the style and structure of each of the episodes and how they interlace each scene to the next. It'd be like nice to have that fading transition between different things. Like in the movie, they do that nice scene transition from like different seasons, but different seasons as in weather seasons, like winter to summer and spring, and the birds and the Hogwarts backdrop, castle backdrop. I think there's lots of character development there, loads of things we can touch on. I think also there's other little things, herbology and how they learn the devil's snare, things that come in use later on, like kind of preempting those and giving us the little teasers that would lead to us knowing why certain people knew that and others didn't, who paid attention, who didn't. And it'd also be nice to see the house rivalries, like the slight thing about Draco versus Harry, the Slytherin versus Gryffindor. That would be nice to expand on. Something there would be good. Let me know in the comments, how do you think it would be a nice scene to portray that in like a nice way. I love reading your comments, so let me know what the breakdown of that would be and how I could envision that, because when I read your comments I kind of take my mind there and I envision that scene happening. So when the HBO does actually release this episode, it'll be interesting to see the deeper interactions between Snape and Harry, the full classroom scenes and what they end up being, the ghosts, the more breakdown about the ghosts, the true weight of McGonagall's choice to make Harry a seeker, setting him as a heroic path. I know I mentioned in episode 1 having like the flashback as the starting of the scene of the Wizarding World's War, but if that isn't happening, maybe now would be a good time in this episode to have flashbacks to that, so we can see how things have come to what it is now, understanding like the villains and who is good and who is bad and who is evil. So what I have done is I've come to an episode now where I'm thinking I'm at episode 5 and we're only just doing lessons. So Harry Potter, if you think about the film, we are like, you know, there's a lot more left to do. So I may continue my episodes to the number of episodes I think it should have been. They're only doing 8. I don't think there should be 8. I think there should be more. So let me know how you feel about that. Should I continue on my theory of how many episodes there should be? Or should I just stop at 8 and then just include the most important scenes? It's important for me to know what you think so we can be on the journey together. So let me know and I'll see you in the comments, see what we can come up with and what the ideas will be. That's my breakdown of episode 5. From potions to broomsticks. Next time we'll face Halloween in Hogwarts, and the troll in the dungeon changes everything. So there's going to be our first kind of sight of magical creatures, you could say, in a way. What if the troll in the dungeon wasn't just a Halloween surprise, but the birth of the most important friendship in the wizarding world? And what about if HBO took this moment and the mystery of the 3rd floor corridor and finally gave it the weight it deserves? Welcome back to the Room of Requirement, and today it smells like troll bogies and destiny. You've made it to episode 6 of my vision for the HBO Harry Potter series. In this episode, we're going to look at the troll in the dungeons, the famous trio, and maybe a sneak peek at the 3rd floor. And also, what's the mysteries of Hogwarts? We need to understand about the school, the relationship, how the teachers look after the students. All of this plays a big part in how HBO makes the series feel to us. So I definitely feel like there's elements here which we can touch on, and I'll kind of give you the main big highlights. So let's just have a little recap. Now we're at Hogwarts, and at this moment Harry's adjusting to life at Hogwarts until Halloween night, when Ron insults Hermione and she disappears to the girls' bathroom. It's at this moment that Ron and Harry find out that she's potentially in danger, so they go and try and help her, and this is where the famous trio relationship starts. Hermione saying it was her fault and that Ron and Harry came to rescue her. The movie captures the scene be it with Harry looking like a bit of a cartoon character. Obviously the animation back then wasn't great. Since then they said they're going to keep it more realistic and lifelike, so we may see less animations or use of special CGI. The movie doesn't touch on the fact about the tension that's building up between the students and the teachers during Hogwarts, especially around Snape.
Be that as it may, it was an extremely foolish thing to do.
They kind of show a little cutaway of his leg bleeding and him hiding it, but there's not much more build on that. In the book there's a lot more detail and storyline that can be touched upon, so I feel like that's like definitely something they need to look at.
Cool.
There's quite a lot of scenes missing showing the post behaviour around the troll with Snape, like what kind of happened, and the Fluffy and the third floor. There's a lot more that we can dive into there. It'd be nice to see a lot more of that, especially in these longer episodes of the HBO series. And there's also a wider piece here, how or who let the troll into the dungeons and how did they get in? Why was Snape injured? What was he even doing near the third floor corridor? Like the teachers, do they do that kind of thing? So we know Quirrell's being manipulated by Voldemort, and maybe we need to see more scenes about Voldemort influencing him, like a flashback maybe of how that perceived tension is building, what his conversation is like. And also there was obviously going to be discussions around the Snape and Dumbledore of protecting the stone.
For sheer dumb luck.
So having a wider view of what's going on behind the scenes there, the discussions they had would be great to give us more context and bring the book and the theory to life. So there's a lot of tones and themes that can be built throughout the series, and it'll be nice to see a wider piece around like the ambience of the school. So after this little scene, that's when the moment shifts for the students. Like they all know, wait a minute, this isn't all dandelions and buttercups. It's like this is going to be a lot of danger and mystery here. They thought they were going to be safe. It also sets the expectation around how Harry's going to kind of look at Snape in a different way, never really trusting him, just after those little scenes that happen in the troll segment. So there's a couple of must-have scenes I think they should include. So something like Hermione crying in the toilets, kind of that wasn't really shown, so we know where she is. The full troll fight maybe, so no skipping, like just the best bits, and more around Hermione lying to save Ron and Harry, and how she kind of set that expectation where actually she could be a really good friend for us because they're looking after each other. And even we need to see more about Snape's injury and his like cryptic conversation with Quirrell, and even like a look at how Dumbledore reacts to the chaos. Here's a quick quote example from it. "There are some things you can't share without ending up liking each other, and knocking out the 12-foot mountain troll is one of them." I'm going to be looking out with a keen eye. Will they show the trio's emotional bond, not just like the functional one? Will Snape's storyline be more mysterious and less cartoonish? So let's just have a look at a few moments. I put together a list of like what was book and what was film, and which bits we would like to see more of. So in the Halloween bits section in the book, Ron mocks Hermione after class, and Hermione hides in the bathroom. Quirrell lets in the troll, later revealed to be part of the plan, and chaos in the Great Hall as teachers search for the troll. Harry and Ron go after Hermione to save her. Hermione lies to protect them, says she went after the troll on purpose. And in the movie we see most of this happens, but the emotional weight is downplayed. So Hermione's bathroom scene is shorter, there's less build up to the friendship forming, and Snape's injury and post-troll tension mostly skipped. We don't see any of that. The corridor mystery, Snape's suspicion in the book. Harry sees Snape limping around after the troll incident, and Hagrid later insists Snape would never steal the stone. Hints of Snape and versus Quirrell tension starting here as well. And in the movie, Snape's injury is vague or absent. No clear suspicion built beyond Harry's general dislike. The mystery of the third floor corridor feels like a subplot, not the central mystery. So I think in this overall section it would be nice to have extra elements of like the school teachers investigating the troll and looking around at like what's Dumbledore's off-screen involvement in this process, hinting at like conversations with Snape, more background like kind of feedback, maybe like the students whispering about the troll, the new school rules coming in. Also be nice to see how Hogwarts responds to the threat, like how the internal policies change or the teacher dynamics around like how safe is the school. And will the troll scene be more earned moment or more like a filler, kind of just filling out what actually happened? So that's my vision of episode 6 of the HBO Harry Potter series and what I think should be inside there. This is the key moment that the three become inseparable and the danger becomes real and the path to the stone begins. In the next episode, we're going to have a quick glimpse at Norbert, the Forbidden Forest, and the final exams, where fear, failure, and foreshadowing all collide. What do you want to see more about in the show, especially the series? Make sure you drop me a comment with what you'd like there and cast Lumos on the bell. So this is episode 7 of my vision for the Harry Potter HBO series and what I think should be included. This one's going to be Norbert, the forest, and the final exams. There's quite a lot we can touch on here. I'm going to go through it by section and describe and understand what's in the book, what's in the films, what we can look more on. My vision for the Harry Potter HBO series and what I think should be included. This one's going to be Norbert, the forest, and the final exams. There's quite a lot we can touch on here. I'm going to go through it by section and describe and understand what's in the book, what's in the films, what we can look more on. Hagrid wins a dragon egg from a hooded figure.
What?
You heard. Right, come on now, I'm a bit preoccupied.
We should see more around that scene. So like Hagrid's there, the hooded figure's there, the conversation that takes place, the exchange of information for an egg. That would be really great to see in this episode, because then if you're going to do it properly.
Of course.
Because it looks like the movie kind of skipped out on some details and gave us the dragon scene, Norbert scene, but it wasn't fully fleshed out. Norbert is raised in secret by the trio, so maybe a little bit more information around that, apart from them just turning up and seeing Hagrid with the egg. There's more there we can play on, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out in the series.
Seem quite glad to be rid of it, as a matter of fact.
Also, eventually they save Norbert by taking him with the invisibility cloak to Charlie, and like that scene would be nice to elaborate on as well. So that does lead to them getting caught and then the detention. So it's nice to see like there's bits there that the entire subplot for Norbert was kind of cut down. The dragon scene, there wasn't no emotional bond. We want to see like a bit more detail about how Hagrid kind of looks after the egg, and then there is a little bit you feel it from the way he kind of portrays it later on, but I think there's more there that can be done with that, especially around having Hagrid and then obviously Malfoy catching them, and then the consequence as a result of that, having McGonagall give him the detention, deduct points, and then send him to the Forbidden Forest like a proper, not torture, but like a real detention. I feel like Forbidden Forest with Hagrid being sent there was like Neville, Draco, Harry, Hermione. So like there's more there that can be built on. The scene for the detention, it was darker. I think later episodes get us dark, but we need to touch on the fact of how dark it was, because it feels like there's different colors there, there's animals out there, there's centaurs, there's unicorn blood drinking things, and it feels like there can be a little bit more scariness there. I don't feel like there was enough scariness. It is quite early on, because I remember they wanted it to be like a PG rating, so they were limiting what they showed, but now we know where the series is heading. Maybe they can push on that a little bit. Mysterious cloaked figure they see drinking blood. Maybe we should get a glimpse of Voldemort under the hood to show who he was, so there's no ambiguity about who was there, because they kind of asked then, and Hagrid's then kind of saying, oh yeah, don't worry, if he's scared of anyone, he's scared of Dumbledore, and like there's little bits there that lead us to the fact we find out it was Voldemort, but maybe seeing him would be nice. In the movie, it seems like the scene's quite rushed and like there's not as much detail there, so I think they should go in full throttle on either the Norbert scene or the forest scene. That's an interesting option, isn't it? I think the forest scene, I'd go in full and give us like a full view of that. Norbert, maybe we can... Was that essential to the storyline? Could we have done without it? I think there are going to still be elements they need to either include or not include, because the looks of it, the 8 episodes, 45 minutes each, is basically just double what the film was in length. Can they fit everything in what double was? I don't know. Interesting option there. Also the school life element of it, like the exams and school life, I feel like there's a lot more that we can play on there. So when they're in school, maybe showing more around how Ron and Hermione were like getting cramped. They're obviously having like more tuition to get Ron to kind of get to the right level to be getting his grades. There's something we can play on there. Also maybe the humorous element of like the exams, because obviously there's like a turning a mouse into a snuff box. There's elements about broomstick exam, which is basically like a version of McGonagall and Hooch to kind of find the best people to be the like Quidditch people. I think in the book we see more emotional ups and downs in like academic life, so maybe there's elements there we can touch on. Hogwarts academics, like the house competition between like the different houses, more around that. I think there's a lot that can be played on there. The final exams were barely referenced in like the movie, and there wasn't any like tension between the houses for like getting the best grades and stuff. So maybe that'd be like a Hermione trait that they can touch on, but it depends how that goes out. And it kind of skips straight to the stone's location. There can be a little bit more build up there. So this is my theory. What do I think should be included? Let me think about this. So Norbit's not just a pet, it's a turning point. So maybe we need to include that. Kind of show him the emotional bond with the dragon that makes the character vulnerable for Hagrid. Add that dark foreshadowing of the forest and like what's to come in later episodes. Maybe seeing like the hooded figure quibble with the exchange of Norbit. I don't know, smuggling operation. So depict the smuggling operation, because obviously they're sneaking Norbit up to the tower at night. So it needs to build up to that. Maybe show some more of that. And the plot does give consequences, so it's nice to see that, okay, they made a mistake. McGonagall kind of deducted the points, and then they gave him the tension, which led to the next scene, the Forbidden Forest. What do I think should be there? So the scene's dark fantasy thriller. Maybe touch on that fact. Emphasize the fear and wonder of the forest and the animals there. Touch on the centaur plot. There's like a whole thing there where the centaurs have their whole tension between like the different animals and like beings there. The Hogwarts culture, the school culture around the grades, thinking about the magical absurdity of the tests. Because think about it, what school has tests about like magical stuff? So maybe showing us more of that to play on the magical side of things would be nice. So it is the calm before the episode in episode 7. Maybe not so calm because we had dragons, we had unicorns here. So next time we're going deep into the trapdoor, the tests and the truth about the stone. That's going to be an interesting one. What creature or test do you think they should be elaborating more on in episode 7? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. It's always encouraging to see you're liking what I'm doing here, so let me know. I feel like the movie gave us a great finale, but the book, it went deeper, it went darker. It was more dangerous. Are we going to see that? I really want to see that. Game of life-sized chess. A room full of flying keys. Boy with a scar facing a man without a body, face, or head, face at the back of a body. The final episode from season 1 could give us a version we've never experienced before. Will they nail it on the head, or will it be a little bit naff? Episode 8, the trap door and the end of the innocence. We're going to find out what happens with the stone. Thank you for joining me in this episode. We are going through the HBO series, and I'm going through each episode that I think should be in the new series and what I think should be included. We're looking at the book, we're looking at the movie, and deciding which bits need more screen time. This is where we're going to be wrapping up season 1. Should I do an extended version and have 2 more episodes? Thank you for joining me. We are at the last one here. If you haven't already gone back, check out those episodes and see how we got to this journey. Filming of HBO's new series is officially underway, and we've got our first look at the new trio. Dominic McLaughlin as Harry, Arabella Stanton as Hermione, and Alistair Stout as Ron. Production is happening at Leavesdown Studios, the same legendary location as the original films. Hogwarts is again full of magical mystery, but in very long school hours. Up to 600 students are enrolled on a custom-built on-set school. If you're liking these breakdowns and my vision of these episodes, drop a like on the video. It just gives me a trigger so I know you're enjoying what I'm doing. Now, let's have a look at the trapdoor and the challenges they faced. So there's key differences between the book and the movies. There's a little bit more that needs to happen to solve each puzzle in the book, but they're a bit like simplified in the movie version. So should we see more detail about how they get through those challenges to get to the final goal? So with the challenges, there's 3 challenges there, and we kind of play on the fact of like who's good at each challenge and the key strengths of each of the trio to kind of solve each of the challenges to get to the final goal. So playing on that fact, showing more details about that would have been nice. So Devil's Snare, Flying Keys. So Hermione's logic and quick thinking is Devil's Snare. She does quite well there. The Flying Keys is Harry's seeker skills, and the giant wizard's chess game is Run. So if you've not thought about that before, it's kind of like each of those challenges is showing each of the skills of each of the trio, so they're all kind of good in their own way. So it's nice to build on the fact that Quirrell's got some internal like struggles that he's got there with how this kind of led him to Voldemort kind of attaching himself to him. So it'll all be interesting how they visualize these effects, because they have already said they don't want to use too much enhancements in the films. They want to keep it like true life. So being a magical world, I don't know how much like CGI animation they're going to use when they've already said they don't want to use too much of it, because that's going to be more difficult to portray some of these things that happen if they're unable to use like really enhanced CGI effects. But maybe have each of those as like proper segments in the film, in the series episode. Keys that swarm like bees, full-scale chessboard, but they're not using CGI, so they're going to have to be careful how they do this and how they move. It's going to be interesting. A lot of camera trickery, I'm assuming. So in the book, we kind of find out that Quirrell reveals Voldemort is on the back of his head, and Harry withstands dark magic to protect the stone. But in the movie, I think there's more like a theatrical play there, so maybe that's justified because they need to build up to the attention. And like HBO has this massive challenge of getting the full nostalgia from the full in like season 1 of the book version of Harry Potter and condensing that to make it be a full version of like J.K. Rowling's original version. So here's what I think they should include from the book versus like the film. A stronger emotional finale. So it's also with the finale, it'll introduce Harry as like more of a symbol, not just a boy, and how like he finds out about the love protection that he got from mom towards Voldemort, and like foreshadowing the prophecy of what's going to happen. So this episode and the first season basically just sets apart Harry. It's like, who are you and what sets you apart? What do you stand for? It kind of gives you those feeling of what he is as a character, what we're going to be seeing in later episodes. There's elements in this episode where Ron sacrifices himself. It kind of gives us a strategic, loyal, brave person's feel, and Hermione's ability to solve the puzzles made her stand out as like the knowledgeable, instinctive friend, which is trustworthy. And then Harry's resistance is portrayed in an emotional, symbolic way because he's choosing love over power. This is the true moment for the trio, and it sets it apart. After this moment, nothing will be the same. And also interesting to play on the fact that after all this magical stuff happening, Harry's then back to the Dursleys, like in a normal household. So with a slight change, because he's no longer unseen. People know who he is, and now he's got the element of, you know what, I've got another house outside the house I'm living in, and I've got another family waiting for me, and I can use that to be where I kind of see my future going as Harry. So if HBO nails this season, it'll be like setting the foreshadow of what other seasons will be like and what we can expect. Will they get it? What should we watch out for? And I think it touches on the fact that actually the puzzles, there were more like 5 puzzles. In the film, we really see like the 3 big ones. Well, we need to include in that the Fluffy getting entrance to like the trap door. Then we had the Devil's Snare. We had the Flying Keys. We had the Wizard's Chess. And then we had the Wizard's Riddle about the stone. So there's actually 5 challenges. Will we see more about this? Because when I think of the movie, I kind of think of the 3 main ones, but not the other 2 as challenges as such, because they kind of already combat those. And how far will they go with Quirrell's like demise and Voldemort's escape? Because in a way we think he's gone, but he's actually gone as in he saved himself and he'll be back later. But do we touch more on that? And will the new Dumbledore speak to Harry afterwards, kind of summarize in more of like a grandfather figure or more like a general preparing for war? Because in a way he knows what's going to come and how is he going to be playing that. We talked about this in other episodes. Should he include Harry more on like what's going to happen, what should be included, prepare him for the dangers coming? And just like that, that's going to be season 1 of Harry Potter. We've had the 8 episodes. I don't feel like I've been able to go into as much detail as I would have liked. I've only been covering the main, like the plots that would be nice to elaborate on. Make sure to let me know in the comments what I missed out in season 1 and what should be more included. There's so many theories out there that we could go into. Maybe I'll do an extended cut and add a couple of more episodes later than the season. I also need to think about season 2, because the Chamber of Secrets is being filmed at the same time as season 1. They're doing them back to back for the series, so they can get the same kind of feel. And obviously they don't want to have a big difference in age, because people will age as they're filming the movies. So it'd be nice to see that journey. Let me know in the comments, and make sure to like this video if you're liking what I'm doing, so it encourages me to make more of these. I am in the preps and planning of season 2. I want to start that as soon as possible really, so let me know what you want me to include in that. I will be on X, formerly Twitter, where you can follow me more for updates and news about the series and episodes. That's at Wondatell. You want to see the next episode in the series? Check this playlist. You'll see every episode for this season. Also, if you're liking these breakdowns and my vision of these episodes, drop a like on the video. It just gives me a trigger so I know you're enjoying what I'm doing. And I'll see you on the next version of this new series here.